Welcome, fellow historians, to a journey beyond the known chronicles of the Imperium. We often speak of Paul Atreides, the rise of the God Emperor, and the scattering. But what of the ages that came before? What secrets lie buried beneath the sands of Arrakis, lost to time and the shifting dunes? From the ancient wars against the thinking machines to the whispers of the Zensuni wanderers who first sought refuge on this desert planet, a vast, untold history awaits. These are not just stories. They are the foundations upon which the universe of Dune was built. Join me as we excavate the forgotten lore, decipher the cryptic symbols, and piece together the epic sagas that shaped humanity's destiny among the stars. Subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss our first expedition into the deep past. The spice isn't the only treasure Arrakis holds.
Across the deserts of time, truth is buried beneath the sands. You're watching Third Age Historian, where the forgotten lore of Dune is revealed. They said the stars were endless, yet even infinity has its toll. Before the rise of emperors or the wars of messiahs, there was the silence between worlds. It was a silence so vast that it humbled kings, broke empires, and buried civilizations in the dust of distance. For centuries, humanity stared into that abyss, longing to cross it, yet fearing what waited beyond. Then came a brotherhood of navigators, shrouded in secrecy and spice, who learned to fold that infinite silence upon itself. They did not build ships. They built the very path between stars. And from that moment, every throne, every trade, every breath of the Imperium would belong to them. The Spacing Guild, masters of travel, merchants of destiny. But even their empire of motion began with stillness and a single, forbidden discovery. In the grand tapestry of the Imperium, few names inspire such reverent fear as the Spacing Guild. They are the unseen arteries of civilization, the lifeblood through which all commerce, diplomacy, and war must flow. To defy them is to drift alone among the stars. To depend on them is to surrender one's destiny to a faceless order that sees all, yet reveals nothing. Their navigators, twisted and transcendent, drift in golden gas, speaking in whispers that only the void can answer. Their eyes pierce space itself, bending it to their will, yet the price for such sight is no less than humanity itself. The Guild's rise is more than a tale of technology or enterprise. It is a story of addiction disguised as transcendence, of monopoly disguised as order. It asks a question older than the Imperium itself. When does knowledge become dependence? When does control become worship? To understand the Spacing Guild is to uncover the true nature of power in the Dune universe. A power not taken by force, but by necessity. For in the age of the Imperium, it was not the sword, nor the throne, but the spice that ruled all things. And the Guild was its first true priests. Long before the Guild, long before the dream of folding space became reality, humanity was still bound by the slow tyranny of distance. Interstellar travel was possible, yes, but not efficient. Ships crawled through space using primitive engines, guided by half-blind computers and fallible human instinct. It was a time of expansion and chaos, when empires rose and fell in the time it took for a single message to cross the stars. Then came the Butlerian Jihad, the great purging of the thinking machines. In that crucible of faith and fire, humankind made a vow: "Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind." With that oath, civilization was both freed and crippled. Freed from the domination of machines, yet stripped of the very intellect that once guided its ships. In the centuries that followed, humanity sought new forms of cognition. Some turned inward, training memory, logic, and computation until men became mentats, living computers of flesh. Others turned spiritual, learning to control emotion and instinct through the arcane discipline of the Bene Gesserit. But there was another path, one more dangerous, more intoxicating. A path hidden in the deserts of Arrakis. There, amidst the dunes, lay the Melange, the spice. A substance that extended life, expanded awareness, and hinted, only hinted, at a consciousness beyond the limits of the human mind. At first, it was a luxury of nobles and scholars. Then, a tool of prophecy and politics. But among the scattered scientists and visionaries of the League worlds, a handful began to suspect that the spice could do more. They observed the subtle shifts it wrought upon perception, how it altered not only thought but time itself. How users spoke of glimpses, flashes of possible futures, as if awareness could leap beyond causality. To some, this was mysticism. To others, it was navigation. From this revelation emerged a radical experiment. If consciousness could see beyond time, could it also chart the path through space? Without computers, without forbidden machines? Could the mind itself replace the navigator's map? These early explorers were called pre-navigators. They were reckless, visionary, and doomed. Many vanished in the attempt to fold space through pure intuition. Their minds burned out, lost in dimensions no instrument could measure. But a few returned, changed, haunted, whispering of corridors through the void that only the spice could reveal. The concept of prescient navigation was born. It was not invention, but evolution, a new kind of perception carved from the human soul. Still, the early attempts were unstable. Without control, ships emerged from fold space, shattered or misplaced by centuries. Entire expeditions were erased from history. The idea of instantaneous travel, once sacred to ancient myths, became a taboo among the sane. Yet the dream refused to die. Across the post-jihad centuries, a clandestine brotherhood began to form, a gathering of savants, pilots, and philosophers who believed that humanity could master this dangerous art. They studied not machines, but the human mind itself. They inhaled the spice not for pleasure, but for revelation. And in secret, they began to transform themselves. It is said the guild was not founded on a day or declared by decree. It coalesced, like a storm gathering at the edge of vision. The navigators who would one day control the Imperium were once men, explorers who gazed into the spice and saw eternity, and were forever changed by it. From their experiments came the first folding ships, primitive by later standards, but wondrous in their time. No longer bound by the slowness of travel, humanity spread again among the stars. And yet, even as new worlds were reached, an invisible empire was already taking shape, not of planets, but of pathways. For whoever controlled the routes between worlds would one day control the Imperium itself. And in that realization, the seed of the Spacing Guild was sown. The old empires rejoiced, unaware that they were celebrating their own dependence. They hailed the navigators as saviors, never asking the question that would haunt all future generations. If the guild alone could see the path through the stars, what would happen if one day they chose not to share it? As the centuries turned, the navigators' art deepened into something far stranger and far more perilous. The first generation of guildsmen had merely used the spice to glimpse the future. Their successors would come to breathe it, then to live within it, until the line between humanity and substance, between consciousness and chemistry, was forever blurred. Inside massive tanks of orange gas, the navigators began to mutate. Their flesh elongated, their limbs stretched thin by the gravitational weight of prescience. Eyes widened into pale orbs, unblinking, as though seeking to see all possible realities at once. Their humanity faded, not lost, but transfigured into something both divine and monstrous. From their trance within the spice, they could see beyond causality. To a navigator, every moment of space and time shimmered like a living map, a million possible paths, each branching and folding upon itself. Through this sacred geometry, they guided great hayliners across the stars. Not by propulsion, not by speed, but by the sheer act of will. And thus, the Spacing Guild was born, the first true monopoly of the human age. They did not conquer. They did not persuade. They became necessary. No ship could travel between worlds without its navigators. No empire could rise, no war could be fought, without their consent. In a universe that had sworn never again to trust machines, the Guild became the new mechanism, a living algorithm fueled not by electricity, but by addiction. Every voyage through fold space consumed unimaginable quantities of spice. Every hayliner was an altar upon which melange was burned in offerings to the navigator's prescient hunger. And so, the guild's power became absolute. Armies did not enforce their monopoly, but by fear, the quiet terror of dependence. If the guild withdrew its services, entire civilizations would starve in isolation. Worlds would fall silent. Economies would collapse. The Imperium itself would fracture, like a body cut off from its veins. The Emperor knew this. The great houses knew this. Even the Bene Gesserit, with all their cunning, respected it. The guild could not be challenged, only appeased. They stood apart, neutral, untouchable, bound by no allegiance but their own survival. Yet beneath that calm neutrality, something darker stirred. The navigators had not merely mastered the spice, they were enslaved by it. Their vision depended on a constant saturation of melange. Deprive them of it, and their prescience would collapse, their mutated forms wither, their minds dissolve into blindness. This was the cruel paradox of the guild's ascension. They had conquered distance, yet could never leave the orbit of Arrakis. The planet of desert and death became the beating heart of the Imperium, not for its beauty, not for its people, but for the dust that fed the stars. As melange flowed outward, wealth and power flowed inward. The guild's economy grew into an invisible empire, its influence woven into every contract, every shipment, every house's treasury. The spice lanes became arteries of control. Every ounce of melange that left Arrakis passed through their hands. In time, even the Emperor became their debtor. The guild's ships ferried his Sardaukar legions. Their navigators charted his campaigns. And quietly, they observed all. No secret, no movement, no rebellion escaped their gaze. But what began as pragmatic control soon evolved into something almost religious. The navigators believed themselves chosen, not by gods, but by necessity itself. They saw the universe not as matter and motion, but as a living equation, one only they could interpret. They were no longer pilots, but prophets. No longer servants of mankind, but custodians of its fate. And yet, in their deepest visions, the navigators saw something that terrified even them. A shadow that rippled across time, an approaching figure whose prescience burned brighter than their own. They could not see his name, only the tremor of his coming. It was said that in their tanks, the navigators whispered to one another of a boy born on Arrakis, a being who would one day look upon the spice and see more than they ever could. But that is a story for another time. For now, the guild reigned supreme, keepers of commerce, masters of movement, slaves to the dust that sustained them. The paradox of the Imperium was complete. All freedom depended on addiction. All progress depended on blindness. And in conquering space itself, humanity had built the greatest prison of all. A cage made not of iron or law, but of necessity. The story of the Spacing Guild is not merely a chronicle of innovation. It is a parable about the limits of human ambition. In the Guild, Frank Herbert crafted one of his most haunting metaphors, the idea that every victory of the mind demands a sacrifice of the soul. The navigators believed they had mastered technology without violating the Butlerian commandment. They had cast aside the forbidden machine and replaced it with the perfected mind. But in truth, they had only changed the shape of their servitude. The guild became the new machine, not of metal, but of flesh. Their navigators, suspended in their orange mist, were living engines, computing the course of every voyage with the price of their own humanity. Herbert's warning is clear. When humanity seeks to transcend its limits through power or perception, it risks becoming the very thing it fears. The Butlerian Jihad had been waged to free humankind from dependence on thinking machines. Yet, within a few millennia, that dependence was reborn, not in circuitry, but in biology. The guild's prescience was not liberation. It was the next evolution of control. Through the lens of economics, the guild represents the ultimate monopoly, a structure that has perfected the art of necessity. They do not rule in the traditional sense. They do not conquer planets, command legions, or crown emperors. They simply stand between all worlds, and in doing so, they own the future. In our own histories, we have seen empires built not upon conquest, but upon supply. Rome ruled through its roads. Venice through its trade. Corporations operate through the invisible networks of commerce and data. The Guild is all of these, the culmination of every age where humanity has traded freedom for convenience and sovereignty for access. But there is another, deeper truth beneath the Guild's monopoly, a spiritual one. The Navigator's transformation reveals the danger of enlightenment without restraint. They sought to see everything, to understand every possible outcome, to not decide without foresight. And in achieving that sight, they lost the one thing that makes choice meaningful: uncertainty. To see the future is to destroy it. For once a path is known, it ceases to be free. The Navigators became prisoners of their own omniscience, floating forever in their spice dreams, unable to look away from the infinite maze of possibilities that folded around them. Herbert's genius was to weave this tragedy into the machinery of civilization itself. The Guild's power is not accidental. It is the inevitable result of humanity's fear of the unknown. We fear chaos, so we centralize order. We fear blindness, so we create seers. We fear limitation, so we consume the very thing that binds us to it. In this, the Guild mirrors not only the Imperium, but us. Our search for control over technology, over economics, over destiny, always ends in dependence. Every system built to liberate humanity eventually consumes it. The more we master, the less we belong to ourselves. The Navigator's mutation is the final symbol of this truth. They are human intellect taken to its logical extreme, vision without emotion, function without freedom. They have achieved godhood in the realm of perception, yet remain trapped in the physicality of addiction. They are prophets who can see every future but cannot change a single one. Through them, Herbert asks an impossible question. Is enlightenment worth the loss of humanity? Is it better to be blind and free, or all-seeing and enslaved? The Spacing Guild stands as the silent answer to that question. It is a civilization that traded its body for immortality, its curiosity for certainty, its will for function. It is the image of humanity at its most triumphant and most tragic, a species that reached for the stars, and in doing so, bound itself to dust. And perhaps this is why Herbert placed the spice, the key to all vision, within the most barren place imaginable. Because wisdom does not emerge from abundance, but from struggle. Because enlightenment, when sought as power, becomes addiction. And because even in the infinite, there must remain something we cannot control, a mystery that keeps us human. In the stillness of their tanks, the Navigators gaze across eternity. They see every empire that will rise and fall, every prophecy that will fulfill itself, every star that will burn out. And somewhere, beyond all possible paths, they glimpse the faint shimmer of a desert world, the source of their gift, their curse, and their cage. They know that without the spice, they are nothing. And yet, even with it, they are not free. Such is the paradox of the Spacing Guild, and of all who seek to master the infinite. In the end, the story of the Spacing Guild is not one of conquest, but of surrender. They mastered the stars, and became prisoners of the very light that guided them. They sought to conquer distance, and found that the true abyss was within. Across millennia, they would endure, silent, unseen, indispensable. Their ships would carry emperors and slaves alike, yet none would ever see their faces. Only the faint shimmer of orange mist, and the echo of a mind that has gazed too long into forever. Through them, Herbert left a warning carved in the fabric of myth, that every empire of control, no matter how vast, is built upon the frailty of dependence. That even in triumph, humanity remains chained, not by the void, but by its fear of losing mastery over it. And so the Guild drifts on, suspended between worlds and fates, forever whispering their silent creed. To move is to serve. To see is to obey. To rule is to need. In the desert of time, their legend remains, a mirror held to the human spirit, reflecting both its glory and its corruption. Subscribe to Third Age Historian to uncover more forgotten histories of the Imperium and the eternal truths buried within its myths.